Welcome to Future Foodcast. I'm Pam Miller, your host, and I want to thank our sponsor, Farm to Plate. They are a software company bringing tomorrow's food business ecosystem to the industry today. You can find out more at farmtoplate.io. My favorite food is ice cream. I'm just going to be transparent here. And I couldn't be more excited to have the guest we have today. We have Tyler Malik. He is the head ice cream maker and co-founder at Salt and Straw. Welcome to the podcast, Tyler.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too. Let me tell you, ice cream is just that go-to comfort food. And I'm just excited to unpack.
Thank you. I know we've been going for 13 years now making ice cream, and so slowly, it's been a fun journey.
How did you get started with this, Tyler? Because you have a unique story here.
Yeah, in 2011, my cousin and I started Salt and Straw together, just in a push cart here in Portland, Oregon. Actually, the first people we ever served ice cream to was the crew from Portlandia on Earth Day in 2011, which is very classic Portland origin story. For me personally, I fell in love with cooking in so many different ways. I had my degree, had an amazing career track, getting ready for having studied business and Mandarin Chinese, and ultimately there was a death in my family. My stepdad passed away from cancer, and it was just this eye-opening moment for me to realize that I didn't want to live in Beijing for the rest of my life. I didn't want to, I wanted to cook for people. I wanted to take care of people. And ice cream became that kind of medium for me. At the same time, my cousin was kind of going through her own kind of big transformative life moment. She had been working with Starbucks for so many years, and recently working at Project Red, which was Bono's nonprofit to raise funds to fight AIDS in Africa. So she was a superhuman to me. She's a few years older than I am, and so I always looked up to her growing up. And she said, I called her up and I was like, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to go to culinary school. And she said, oh, I'm changing everything. I'm going to start an ice cream company. And so I spent 3 weeks just begging her every single day to let me come and help her start her ice cream company and be the ice cream maker. Because I was in culinary school. I knew it all by then at 23. And finally she relented and let me come make ice cream. And we became, immediately best friends and figured out how to do this, together. So that was almost 13 years ago, which is kind of like, in retrospect, pretty game changing.
Well, and that's good longevity really for starting in a push cart and now having developed a company that has withstood the test of time for 13 years. Not only that, you're doing really great, and we'll dive into that a little bit, but
thank you. We're having fun.
I love the serendipity of you and your cousin at the same time, kind of going through your own individual life situations that then brought you together. The Mandarin Chinese, though, wow, you've got to create some flavors then have a Chinese name for them. I think
I know
what you need to do.
I know. I've thought about it. We've drafted up some menus. I think for us, what we didn't realize was that food is an incredibly magical medium, but ice cream in particular has some superpowers that even we didn't know, 13 years ago. Specifically, it's this really raw platform. It's just cream and sugar. It allows you to be creative. It allows you to bring people together. It allows you to tell stories in really unique ways. And we kind of leaned into that. We were one of the first companies to start, doing these collaborations. So we'd go out and I'd, stage at a restaurant for a week. And then at the end of it, we were making ice cream together, or I'd go to a brewery and we'd be making beer. And then by the end of the week, we'd be making beer and cream and sugar instead of water, and so it became this, honestly, for me, I'm a learner at heart. I love just learning from other companies, other makers, and that became my learning platform, is going around Portland and learning about the foods that are in the city and figuring out how to make those flavors tell their stories through ice cream. And so for us, go ahead. No, I think for us,
I interrupted you. I want to,
No. That became the impetus for our entire company, is bringing stories together, talking about important food movements and what's in season, and social causes, through ice cream because, who's not going to love eating ice cream? And if we can kind of like, just tell them a fascinating story at the same time, it really becomes a superpower.
This is my love of ice cream. And
Yeah.
what you're doing is so innovative.
Thank you.
And
cool.
The creative part of it, just you talk about going to different restaurants or
right,
combining different flavors that you don't normally combine. And innovation is kind of, I mean, when you and your cousin founded the company, that had to be a mantra. We are going to be open and innovating as we move forward. Just from what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we purposely knew we were going to do that, but it became like it became an energy source for us, which I think when you're starting a company, what you're doing gives you energy. If it's really just driving you forward and making you want to work 60, 70-hour weeks, like that's a good sign, right? That's a sign that you made it into the right. And so that really became everything to us from day one.
Yeah, I think you do need that energy, and that keeps you moving forward because it gets hard. Success is not a straight line, right? You're trying to figure that out all along the way. But tell us about, because you talked about trying out new flavors right there in Portland. Why don't you share that with our audience, the story of how you did that?
I mean, for us, it became a really interesting kind of building tempo, building momentum as a brand became really important for us. From day one, we started as a push cart, and then we slowly opened just 2 blocks down in the arts district here in Portland, so Alberta Arts District. And what's amazing about Northeast Alberta here in Portland, that street is just, it literally like on the last Thursday of every month, they shut it down. And they do a whole street walk with all the artists in the city kind of bringing out and, having stalls and booths, and all the art studios just open their doors. It becomes kind of this huge event for the city. We had to be part of that. So we started just every Thursday night, or the last Thursday of every month, we'd test out new recipes and we'd, celebrate the street event with everyone. And that became kind of this tempo for us. Over the first year and a half, we kind of realized that was a pivotal moment for us to do this monthly flavor or set of flavors. And we slowly just like dialed that in and built that into every facet of our company. So to this day now, we launch a set of 5 brand new flavors. Now it's on the first Friday morning of every month. And those flavors, they're always telling new stories and kind of having fun with what's in season right now.
That is really, really cool. And as a customer, if I lived in Portland, that would be like a go-to event for me to try some of the new flavors that you're thinking about putting out.
That was totally the idea. Yeah, exactly. And we have people literally like lining out the door at 10 a.m., getting ready when we open. It's become, for us also, we've gotten a little bigger now. We've got 37 stores.
Wow.
And the fact that we like built that into our ethos on day one of the company, or within the first year, we like solidified it and made that part of our DNA as a company. Now to this day, as we grow and we continue to grow, that's kind of our secret sauce. That's what no other company can do, because we built it, we instilled it into every person that we've ever hired, every system we've ever created. So it really is kind of a cool thing that we've instilled into the company, this level of innovation, this idea of constantly testing and driving ourselves forward.
All right. Before we get into the seasonal flavors, one more thing about this new flavors each month. Do you do that kind of thing in the cities or in the towns where all of your stores are, or just the main store? Yes.
No, every single shop.
Big undertaking.
It's incredible. And often, a lot of times when you go to different cities, they might be also different flavors because, what's in season in Southern California might not be the same as what's in season in Seattle. It's a monster to overcome, but it becomes this part of your everyday life, to be talking about it. Like our servers, for example, you'd think that'd be daunting for servers to have to learn a whole new menu on the first Friday of every month. And like by the last Thursday, they've fallen in love with this menu and they finally understand what, and then all of a sudden it disappears and that flavor might never be back. Seems really daunting, but honestly, for our team, everyone in the company, it becomes this source of pride, and it becomes almost this source of like then they get this excitement, of like, what's the new flavor? What do I need to learn this month? What am I going to fall in love with? Talk to my team. I'm like, this is like sand art, right? We're like building up. You're spending an entire month investing in learning how to make these new recipes and how to talk about these new recipes, how to market these new recipes, and then it's just going to disappear for sure. But there's also so much beauty in that.
I think the other thing I'm hearing is that you're giving your individual store managers or whomever, the teams that work there, a bit of ownership in some of those flavors for the areas that they're in. I mean, they're able to come up with those ideas, and I bet you have probably more longevity than the average ice cream store, for example.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it becomes a different interaction with your product between team members, a different level of buy-in to your point. So we're really proud of what we're doing. It's really, really hard, way harder than it could be or should be. But I think it allows us to do something that doesn't exist in this world. So
a couple things here. I do want to get into some of the flavorings, but I'm drawn to the customer experience as well, because I think this is a really unique customer experience from what you're describing.
Yeah, 100%. That's a good point. Part of that kind of conversation with our team is also training them on what hospitality looks like. For us, probably the first thing you have to recognize at a Salt and Straw as soon as you walk in is that we're not like any other ice cream company if we look at our direct competitors, we don't consider ourselves competing with any other dessert places. We think about like, where else is someone going to go spend 45 minutes, an hour, hanging out with their friends, talking, putting their cell phone down, getting this like almost theatrical level of service, and meeting their neighbors, like all of this, like all packed in one. And at that point you start thinking about like, we're competing against going to the movies, we're competing against theaters, sports games, like bars, like this is not an ice cream company in many ways. And when you kind of convey that, especially to your team, all of a sudden this becomes, you see like there's a lot put on their shoulders, because they're not just scooping ice cream, they are literally changing people's days. And so we train that from day one on what hospitality looks like, and talk about why it's so much, I think for us, we're, disciples of Danny Meyer. So this idea of like the difference of service versus hospitality, how do you make sure that everything you're doing is taking care of someone and making them feel welcome? How do you kind of read their signs, understand what they're looking for? And so it really is kind of it's an experience for our customers. And then when you get to the front of the line and actually start tasting through the ice cream, create all of our flavors based off of what tells a unique story. So I 100%, and I actually lean into the fact that you can sample all the flavors you want, and I'm hoping you taste all 18 when you visit at any given time. You're probably going to go home with, our salted caramel, which is the best salted caramel ice cream in the entire world, or our cookie dough, which, oh my God, it's literally, we've been perfecting this for so long. Through that experience, you're going to taste edible bugs in your ice cream. You're going to taste, some really unique flavors from Mexico City. You're going to taste some really like this really cool goat cheese from down the road. You're going to take, like all these things. We're going to tell you the stories of these ingredients and take you on a kind of a journey. And then you'll leave with, maybe a more simple ice cream. But that's okay. That's actually part of the whole experience. And you don't meet anyone in the restaurant industry who gets to serve like that, right? Like you can't go to like a fine dining restaurant and be like, can I just like have a spoonful of that bone marrow dish? And then I'm going to order the chicken,
That's right. But they might not order the chicken. They might order the bone marrow dish.
Which is great too.
As a customer, if I go there once and I know that these featured flavors for the month, you have your regular standards. We can talk about that in a minute, but the featured flavors aren't going to be here after that first Friday. So I have the first Thursday to try whatever I want to try of those. I'm going to probably come back more often if I taste a couple that I want to try. I'm not going to eat like 4 scoops of ice cream in one go, but I'll stop it. You
could try.
I'd be comatose probably, but I would be more apt to come and try some different ones, and then mourn with everyone else when first Friday comes and you're changing over. But then it's all a new adventure. culture. And even
Yeah.
if I still do go home with a pint of salted caramel,
You
so
want
be
to
it.
try them.
I'll still try the new things. So the customers, I think that's a great way to get them. They're a part of your culture as well, of
Yeah.
innovation and
Yeah.
trying new things. And do you tell them there are different bugs in the ice cream,
Oh
Tyler?
yeah. Well, I
You
mean,
do? Okay.
that's the
And they
beauty of
still
it.
try it.
Yeah. Um,
Just wondering, asking
you
for a
know,
friend.
for October, we always every year we do a Halloween flavor called creepy crawly critters, and
Oh,
because it provokes a conversation. And
yeah.
this is an interesting another whole other topic around why our ice cream is so important is provoking a conversation.
Okay.
Because a lot of people will stop and be like, why did you put bugs in ice cream? And then that gets me to say, well, let's talk about why. First of all, we wanted to create this flavor that kind of like, we literally called it creepy crawly critters, and with edible bugs, they're chocolate covered crickets and coconut candied mealworms. But those crickets and mealworms were made, they were actually farmed and candied by this lady in the Bay Area. Her company is called Don Baguito. And Don Baguito is an amazing company that started about 10 years ago. She went through the La Cocina program, which is an amazing nonprofit in San Francisco that focuses on incubating really almost primarily first generation immigrant women owned businesses in this country. And so when lady started Don Baguito, she grew up in Mexico City and she wanted to bring the foods that she grew up with to the United States. And she became one of the first edible bug farmers in the United States. And so we get to tell that story 1 million times a year. In the course of that month, going to tell people 1 million times over and over and over again. We get to talk about this an amazing program. They get to learn about this nonprofit that they can now support. They get to learn about this really unique food that comes from Mexico, that is relatively traditional in Mexico City. They get to learn about this amazing company that they can support at Baguito. And that was all because we provoked that conversation with just one spoonful of ice cream. So it really becomes, we feel like this power, almost like this weight on our shoulders to use our ice cream to talk about some of these stories and to get people, I don't know, to learn about something new in the world.
Yeah, you're having an impact far outside of just providing.
That's our goal. Yeah. And even if it's scary for people, if you would never ever have bugs anywhere else, but maybe if you just have one spoonful and it's the only time you ever have it in your life, you can at least say you tried it.
You did try it. Now, we are recording this conversation in October of 2023.
Yeah.
So probably it will come out in like November of 2023.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you know what's planned for November or December yet? I mean, do these things? Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit about that for our listeners that are
for sure
listening and can find a Salt and Straw near them?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we plan about 8 months in advance. We find that as we grow, that's so important for us, for our team, for our suppliers, so we can give them a heads up long in advance. Everything is easier if you plan. Write it down and plan. That's what I've learned the hard way. Yeah, our November menu is exciting. Every year we kind of do a 5-course tasting menu through for Thanksgiving. So 5 scoops of ice cream that are all of the classic dishes on Thanksgiving.
Oh, that is so fun, Tyler.
It's really fun, including turkey. There is a turkey ice cream.
Really?
And it's we did a turkey. It's a fried turkey bread pudding with a cranberry sauce and a salt and pepper ice cream. Ooh. So it's really, really good. Pretty savory, probably one of the most savory ice creams we've made in a long time, but really delicious. And then that's, we've also got a pumpkin pie ice cream that's vegan, that's delicious. We've got this probably the most popular, the dark horse of the menu is we do a buttered rolls ice cream, because I always loved like those toasted buttered rolls. So we've got kind of this Parker House roll ice cream that is insane. And then going into the holidays, we have quite a few different partnerships. One of them is a Seattle company, actually. So we started working with this company called Skinny Dipped, and we're using her peppermint candied or peppermint chocolate almonds that are so tasty. I just fell in love with it's a little pop of texture. So we put them in our ice cream to make like a peppermint ice cream. One of my favorites, we've got an almond brittle ice cream that was my grandma's recipe. It's the first I made it with her. I've been making it with her since I was 3 years old. Gingerbread cookies. So A lot of these flavors in the holidays just go to these kind of really classic combinations done in kind of a unique salt and straw way.
Very cool. I'm so excited about that. I might have to fly to Portland just to
Or we can
try some
ship
ice
it to you
cream.
too. We can ship it
You can
out on
ship
dry
it?
ice.
Are
Yeah,
you
yeah. It's
kidding
the
me?
easiest thing, and it's so
Oh my
easy.
goodness.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
I'm
just pray
totally
that
on it.
FedEx delivers on time. That's the only.
That's true. Well, hopefully
Or
it'll
will
be
we
a
send
little
it?
bit
Yeah.
cooler by the time
Yeah.
I order that. So
Exactly. Yeah, that
it'll be
helps.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, I think our listeners, I hope they aren't listening to this episode when they're hungry, because we're going to be in big, big trouble
I
if that's
know.
the case.
The almond brittle ice cream
But
is really good. I'm
so
not gonna
you
lie.
also have written cookbooks.
Yep,
Tell us about those.
well, I've got one finished. It came out in 2019, and then when the pandemic hit, it became, it went viral just because it became this, the Bible for ice cream making at home, which a lot of people started doing. And so that became kind of I just fell in love with telling our story through flavors. It literally is all of our recipes like packed into one book, which was daunting and scary. The one thing I realized quickly is that the magic of making ice cream is what we do in the kitchen. The recipes, if people can make them at home, you should go for it, because it's really hard, but it's also really, really fun. We're working on a second book actually right now, so that should come out in about a year, focused again on traditional flavors of ice creams and why why the best flavors of the best are so good, and how you can kind of riff off of them in your own unique ways.
That is so cool that you're even sharing your recipes in hopes that people can make them and enjoy them at home.
I think it became a fun way of storytelling. You can kind of see like I love taking people on this journey, through tasting, and recipe writing is a whole nother world of showing and telling and bringing people along. And so it really is one of the pinnacles of my career in many ways, something I'm so proud of, being able to kind of talk to people in such a unique way.
Well, I for one am really glad that you chose not to keep pursuing your business degree and Mandarin Chinese
I know.
degree, because
I know. I forgot all my
otherwise,
Mandarin though. Now it's like
oh no,
15 years later. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, well, just a few years down the road, but maybe you'd pick it up like riding a bike a little bit. I don't know how
I hope.
I don't know how Mandarin's a
I'm
very hard
hoping.
language, I know, but I don't know if you have a reason to now. You're giving to the world in different ways, and sharing of your gifts and your creativity, and just all the innovation that's going on is really cool at Salt and Straw. We've talked about so many really neat, and it sounds like, I mean, your ingredients are fairly simple, and then you're locally sourcing the special recipe type ingredients. So again, you can tell the stories that you want to tell.
Exactly.
What else is there about what you're doing there at Salt and Straw, or anything about the industry or future thinking that you'd like to share with our audience before we go today, Tyler?
I mean, the only other thing I would add is like now we're getting the whole new world of non-dairy ice creams too, so that's something that I'm hugely passionate about for so many reasons. So when you come into Salt and Straw at any given time, 1 in 5 flavors are vegan, and that's important for us. You think about if our goal is to be competing with going to the theater, then we also have to be welcoming to anyone that's coming, regardless of their dietary restrictions. And so that became an important initiative for us quite, really early on. But even more than that, also, I kind of talked about November and December. January is my favorite month of all, because in January,
do tell.
we have a whole menu. We do a whole menu takeover that's all vegan. We test out different types of ice cream bases. So we use coconut, we use a coconut milk, oat milk. We also do like an upcycled barley milk that is really good in an ice cream. So testing out different ways to make ice creams that are not milk based it's such a fun, delicious journey to take people on and show I think the world that like there's other ways to kind of other ways to eat, other ways to think about dessert, and other ways to think about ice cream.
Everyone should have access to a delicious treat like ice cream.
I think
and
so.
So that's part of your mission, is
exactly.
to expose.
I got to write that
everyone
down.
An opportunity. Everyone an opportunity. Tyler, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, our listeners, check out Salt and Straw. And if you enjoyed this episode with Tyler and just the great story behind this company and what they're continuing to do and the impact that they're having in the world, just like us, subscribe us, give us some comments, let us know who else you'd like to hear from. I'm Pam Linemiller. Until next time.